Good evening. This is the Elliott wave update for Monday, November the 11th, 2024. I am going to get right to the point. There wasn't a whole lot today. The volume was a little bit on the light side. Not bad, but a little bit on the light side. It was a holiday. It was Veterans Day. Markets were open. The bond markets and many of the banks were closed. But it does appear that we kind of either have started or maybe even completed that smaller fourth wave that I was looking for. So let's jump in, starting with the S&P. I'm on the hourly chart. No need to go back over everything that I did on the weekly update. So I'm going to start from we have minute wave four, complete on the 4th of November. So that was the day before Election Day. Pretty much from Election Day, we just started this very, very powerful rally. And we, during Globex, did go up and put in that additional new high to complete what I believe is that minuet wave three. So that allowed us to start today and maybe even completed today that minuet wave four. I'm going to bring it down to the 15-minute chart so we can take a look inside that minuet wave four and see. You can see that it is an A, B, C. It's a zigzag. It's pretty clean. But this is kind of leaving me questionable because I'd be looking for it to be a little bit more oomph to it, so to speak. I want it to really kind of start to punch up higher in more of an impulse fashion. It started off great, then it kind of went sideways from that point on. Again, it could have been the holiday. There was a whole lot of things to just kind of held things very tight, and we didn't get a whole lot of movement. Now, so how I want to leave this is that I'm going to leave open the potential that it could be done. And if that's the case, then I'll go back out in just a moment. If not, then this is A, then we'd be looking for B to still come up a little bit further than what it has. And I can throw in some quick fibs just to kind of show that, okay, we came up to the 50% marker, so that could very well be a B wave. And then we come down into C, but being that it's 3, not 5, it's a 535, but it's still 3. It kind of lets me know that we probably should come up a little bit higher, maybe up to 6,038. Put it a little bit closer to an ABC flat. And what that would then suggest is that we got an A, a B, and then the C pretty much coming back down. So we're going to give it the opportunity that it could have a little bit more upside before it turns and finishes that fourth wave, if indeed it is not complete. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove that. So we have these levels. Those are those that they're pointing out. That's about 618. And a little bit higher would be 0.786. So if we can get up to here and then come back down, then it's going to be A, B, and then the C coming down. And then what you would do is you would look to put your fibs, not retrace them, but the extensions. You go from there to there and wherever this happens to finish before it starts to turn lower again. But I've left open now, coming back out to that hourly chart, I've left open the fib levels if that fourth wave is going to continue. So we're looking for, again, the minuet fourth wave. And so we have 1, 2, 3, and the 4.236 is just 59.89. So it kind of was almost not necessarily a super tight range, but a very tight range. The high being 53, the low being 15. I think it was 15, 13 and a half, sorry. Now, 6031 was a call wall coming in this morning. It was a call wall. And so, but that got broken before. That got broken during Globex. So we did see all of that kind of come into play, but then it came back down and now is going to finish the day back at that level. So I also find that a little bit interesting. So here's the situation. We're going to look for, if this is complete, we should start to build on this rally, break back above 6,053, which was the Globex high from overnight, and then start heading up. And again, I'm going to pull this down a little bit so we can start to look at what our fibs are going forward to the upside. And so right now, again, these here, minuet 4, if it's not done. If it is, the 4 is going to go here, and we're heading up in minuet wave 5. Minuet wave 5 then in turn will be completing minute wave 5, which in turn then will be completing minor wave 5, which in turn will be completing intermediate wave 3. So I do believe we're pretty close. I think we're very close to putting in that high for for intermediate wave 3, and we begin that next down, which is an intermediate fourth wave, which I've talked about over the weekend, that it would bring us back down to those August lows over a period of time, but it could bring it down. And I actually think that we might get that same speed in terms of, it was less than a month to do the minor for. That took us from this July high down to that August 5th low. So here, if we get this November high, and we drop back down, and we do it pretty much before Thanksgiving into the beginning of December, then possibly we can pick up the rally again. Or the rally slows down a little bit. We start heading higher, but it's just going to build and it's going to take a little bit longer instead of this is power up, power up, power up. Now, what has really provided a lot of support in just this continued push is the fact that Tesla continues to kind of go higher and now appearing to be on steroids almost. And with the stock up 28, finishing up 28, but it was up not substantially, but higher than here, and got above $350. So the mindset is that it's going to 400, it's going to 450, it's going, up there. And so that's all very possible. And it traded a massive amount. Let's just go take a look, see what it's like. 207 million. It's actually over, but that's humongous. That's a very, very large amount of stock to trade. The options, extremely active, very, very active. So there's a lot at play in Tesla right now. And then we had this push and pull for most of the day. And a lot of times it just got a little bit out of hand, basically because we had Apple going in the other direction. We had many of the Mag 7s kind of heading lower versus higher. So Tesla was kind of holding things up. And at the beginning, so was NVIDIA was in there too. But then they all kind of gave it up and Tesla had to carry it out on its own and didn't do too bad of a job with the S&P closing up 5. Not the greatest of, rallies, but strong enough to finish positive. And it was the Dow was the big winner today, being up 300. So again, in the S&P, we've got, if the fourth wave still has more to come on the downside, we have 59.90, and then we have 59.52. I actually think we also have the hourly 50 sitting at 6,009, 6,010. And that could provide support as it kind of did today. But I think break there could push it very quickly down to there, finish it up, and then we start that rally all over again. Taking a look at the moving averages, and I usually go out to the daily, so we take a look at on that level, all still very in alignment for continuation to the upside. Not registering a negative bar today at all. So we're finishing up with a positive upside bar. So I believe that we're looking like we could just continue to move up and finish this larger move. Let me take us over to the NASDAQ. Let's take a peek there. NASDAQ, problem child today. Boy, it was at one point I commented to a trading friend that, the NASDAQ was an index on steroids today because the moves were just like jerk it up, jerk it down, jerk it up, jerk it down. And you thought you could catch something and get up there. But while Tesla was being pushed and pushed and pushed, Apple and Meta and Microsoft were going in the other direction. And so you would get this push and then suddenly it would stop and just drop and then fight back and then drop and then fight. So it was very difficult actually to trade because the moves weren't like it was just dropping a point. The moves was dropping 10, 20, 30 points. And as a day trader, that's a lot of risk to be carrying on a position, even a one lot. So it was a little bit more difficult nonetheless, like in the S&P, I do think that here in the NASDAQ, we did finish that minuet wave 4. So starting here, again, I've kind of labeled it out now. I got 1, 2. We did make a new high, as I discussed over the weekend, that we need to make that additional new high that finishes that minuet third wave, and then we come down in a fourth wave. And it all measured out, and it did actually come into support for the entire move. Now, what I've left on is if we have continued downside, if it goes, if this is A and this is going to be a B, and then we come back down in a C wave, well, then we have continued support for this fourth wave. I actually put these in the wrong color. So let me just fix that real quick. And they should be in the minuets. Minuet. So we would have additional support coming under if it wasn't complete. So it kind of came down real nicely, 21,098 being the low today. And that actually fit, considering that it was trading at 21,200 and above for much of the day, but then eventually did manage to get all the way back down there and into a support zone that would have been sufficient for the minuet fourth wave. And what I mean by being sufficient, it went through the 0.236 level, and I'm just going to stick it out there so you can see it. Where it kind of dropped down. So it kind of almost got down. Not quite, so about 48 points, but, excuse me, yeah, 48 points to the 382, but it surpassed 236. So that's why, and the form itself was pretty clean. And so right now what I want to do is take it down to the 15-minute, take a quick look at that. You can see it's the same thing. It looks like it's a 535 or an ABC, and pretty clean and nicely done. And see, this was more in line with what I'd kind of look for as we're coming out of it. And that is that we have 1, 2, 3. Little 4, we come up on a 5, and you can see more impulse-like versus just moving sideways as we saw over in the NASDAQ. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that both put in that fourth wave, and that we will see the continuation now to the upside. And we have about 16 more minutes to this additional hour. So the markets will close again at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific time, and then restart at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific for the start of the Globex session. Now, what I've also added, I'm going to pull this back out, go back out to that hourly chart. If indeed 21,098 completed that minuet fourth wave, then we're looking for that fifth wave. And here are our markers. The first one is where wave 5 would be equal to wave 1. And I'm kind of, almost taking a little bit of a guess on that this is wave 1, that's wave 2, and that big wave 3. And so it was a very powerful third wave, and that's what makes it the third wave. So good example of it, even including all these little bumps and grinds that we had along the way, it was still a very powerful upside move. So I'm putting 1, 2, putting the 3 here, putting the 4 there, now looking for that 5. Our first level, where 5 would be equal to 1, comes in at 21,458. Now, next up would be 1.618. So the second most common is 1.618. That sits right in the middle of our other cluster. And that cluster would, if we kind of get up into this area, is working through the intermediate and the minor. So the minute sits above all that, 1.618. So we've already passed where minute wave 5 is equal to minute wave 1. And I'll just stick it back on there because so again, on that degree, on the minute degree, I would be looking for the market in terms of the structure versus the fib level. So you can see the 100% all the way down here. So it went through that last week, and then over the yesterday, and then came back down through it. So I don't want to leave it there because to add any confusion. So, but what it comes down to is the structure. So we have the structure right now, and so up into here would fit because we're now looking for that minuet fifth wave. If 21,458 contains it, and we have 5 that I can count 5, then that's a good point. Could be right there. But my thought is it's like we got a little bit more to go beyond that because we have this nice cluster. So the minute degree, pretty much down to the actual structure. Wave 5, that's what we're looking for. And if we pass that, then we're getting up into intermediate wave 3, minor wave 5. They all have nice completion points up here as well. So we have a nice cluster for completing a small group of, well, that would be intermediate third, minor 5, and here would be minuet 5, and that would then complete minute 5, et cetera, getting it all done. So that zone starts at 21,665, and then we have 21,680, which is for this minuet wave 5, and then 21,718, which is for that minor wave 5. Nice cluster. And I'm kind of going to start looking there. If we power through that, then we're headed likely up into here. You know, between 21,975 and 22,050 would be my guesses in that next zone. And that is then minute and minuet. So these, yeah, I'm looking for resistance there, but if they exceed it, doesn't mean that we're going to go all the way to these next levels. We can, and again, we have a nice cluster. Here we have intermediate, minute, and minor, all lined up again. And down below, and this one, we just have minuet, intermediate, and minor. So, but they start to group up, and so I am kind of looking for this minuet fifth wave, the minute fifth wave, minor fifth wave, and the intermediate third to be getting pretty close to being complete. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Let's take a quick look to see what we have, if anything, coming out tomorrow in terms of economic data. We basically have one at 6 a.m. Eastern, the NFIB Optimism Index, and I doubt that's going to have any real pull in any direction. And then we have 3 Fed governors out speaking tomorrow, governors and presidents actually out speaking tomorrow. So the heavyweights start on Wednesday when we have the CPI, and then on Thursday when we have initial jobless claims and the PPI. So, and over this whole week, we have a lot of Fed personalities out speaking. All right, that's going to be it for today. Our next update will be on Tuesday, November the 12th.